بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. أما بعد أحبتي في الله، السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. أسأل الله الكريم رب العرش العظيم أن يتولنا في الدنيا والآخرة. أحبتي في الله, the issue of tawheed and worshiping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone, seeking the blessings from Allah, putting your hope and your trust in Allah Azza wa Jal alone is a shan of the mu'min. This is the affair of the believer, and this is what distinguishes the Muslim from the people of kufr and shirk. And this concept of worshiping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone and supplicating to Allah Azza wa Jal alone, putting your hope, your istighatha, that you hope that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala delivers you from a difficult thing, that this turning to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone is the affair of the believer. And those devils from amongst mankind and jinn who try to convince you otherwise, especially the ones who play as if they're Muslim, then you should run and flee from them. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, في كتابه المبين, يا أيها الناس اعبدوا ربكم الذي خلقكم والذين من قبلكم لعلكم تتقون. O you mankind, Allah is addressing all of mankind, not just the believers. يا أيها الناس, O you mankind. يا أيها الناس اعبدوا ربكم, worship your Lord who created you and those who came before you in order that you gain taqwa. That means you adhere to the commandments of Allah and avoid His prohibitions. الذي جعل لكم الأرض فراشا والسماء بناء وأنزل من السماء ماء فأخرج به من الثمرات رزقا لكم فلا تعجلوا لله أندادا وأنتم تعلمون. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, الذي جعل لكم الأرض فراشا, meaning Allah says worship Him and Him alone. And He is the one who has made the earth as like a bed for you, like a place of resting. وَالسَّمَاءِ بَنَاءً, and the skies have been built up, they like a building. وَأَنزَلَ مِنَ السَّمَاءِ, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala descends from the sky, or from the heavens, water. This is rain. فَأَخْرَجَ بِهِ مِنْ ثَمَرَاتِ رِزْقًا لَكُمْ, which provides a provision for you. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, because He's mentioned all these ni'am in this ayat, all these favors that He's bestowed upon us. He says, فَلَا تَجْعَلُوا لِلَّهِ أَنْدَادًا وَأَنْتُمْ تَعْلَمُونَ. Do not associate with Allah a partner, and you know. Meaning you know the haqq, you know where all these blessings come from. How is it that people who claim to be Muslim can defend seeking isti'ana, help from the dead, or istighatha, asking the dead to assist them with their hawa'ij, their difficulties and the things that they face, and seek protection from them? فَلَا تَجْعَلُوا لِلَّهِ أَنْدَادًا وَأَنْتُمْ تَعْلَمُونَ. Ahabati Fillah, our Sheikh Imam Abdul Muhsin al-Abbad, Hafidhullah Ta'ala, he mentions with regards to this ayat, showing the importance that we have to put our trust, we rely, and that the da'wah of Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah, the da'wah of the Muslim, the da'wah of the Anbiya, alayhim afdal salatu wasalam, is that of tawheed. He says, وَأَنَّ النَّبِيَّ صَلَّى اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ وَسَلَّمْ بَدَأَ دَعْوَتُهُ بِتَوْحِيد. The Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam began his da'wah with tawheed, not to go into the graves and not to go into the past prophets, alayhim afdal salatu wasalam, or the dirt or the rocks or the grass. La. The Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam began with tawheed, calling to the worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. بَدَأَ دَعْوَتُهُ بِتَوْحِيد وَخَتَمَهَا بِتَوْحِيد, and he ended it with tawheed, monotheism. وأن بدأ الحياة السعيدة بتوحيد وختمها بتوحيد. So if you want a truly happy and exhilarating life, it begins with tawheed and it ends with tawheed, the worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone. وأن الثواب المؤمنين أعظم ثواب وعقاب الكافرين أشد العقاب, and that the reward for the believer, the one who's on tawheed, al-ibadah, worships Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone, doesn't worship the dead, does not supplicate to the dead, does not ask the dead or anyone or anything that cannot help them, that the one who's on tawheed, they find prosperity in their life, happiness, they find, and their thawab, their reward with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, is the reward of goodness and the reward of paradise and the reward of the blessings of Allah. A'zam thawab. And then he says, Shaykhana, Hafidullah Ta'ala, he says, وَعِقَابَ الْكَافِرِينَ. And he says the punishment for those who disbelieve in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, those who commit shirk with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, those who say istighatha to other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that they have a wicked punishment. وَأَنَّهُ لَا أَسْفَهُ مِنْ عَقْلٍ مَنْ عَبِدَ مَعَ اللَّهِ غَيْرِهِ. And there's no one whose intellect and intellectual ability and capacity is more handicapped, if you will, or more retarded, if you will, than the ones who worship and direct their worship and their du'as and their istighatha and their isti'ana to other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَعِيَاذًا بِاللَّهِ وَإِيَّاكُمْ مِنْ ذَلِكَ.